everyone. Here we are. I'm opening the chat here. Welcome. It's only the few seconds in the beginning is still like, is it still already alive or is it not? So I guess we are. So, hi, Morgan. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello,
How are
Paula.
you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. It's great to be here. I'm really happy to be doing this with you.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of
Yeah.
choreography of mental health. We're going to dive into this topic very shortly, but I wanted us to kind of introduce ourselves first because there might be people in the audience. And if you are in the audience, please type something in the comments. I hope I can see all the comments. Sometimes it is so that we can't see the comments as they come in. And in that case, please don't worry if we don't respond to your comment right away. We will after the live anyway, go through the comments. So we will see everything at some time. Yeah. So I wanted us to kind of introduce ourselves and then why do we even talk about choreography and mental health like in the same sentence? That's could be a question for some people. And so, yeah, I am Paula. Yes, Paula. I am from Finland originally. I live in Switzerland. I'm a mental performance coach. I come from a ballet background, so trained in classical ballet and a lot of dance in all kinds of directions. And that is kind of the guiding light in my life since I was like 4 or 5 years old. And so that is also the reason for a lot of things that are good, a lot of things that are not so good in my life, including the kind of mental health issues that I have had. Hence, I have come to the point where I'm now helping athletes, high performers, dancers, performers who are on stage, to kind of have tools now so that they do not have to go through the same kind of path that I have gone through because it's not fun, when you struggle with your mental health and you really don't see a way out for a long time. And so there are ways to not go there. So that's why I do what I do. That's kind of in a very short nutshell. So, how about you, Morgan?
Yeah, so yes, I'll share my nutshell as well, right? We have these full stories, but I'm Morgan Dene, and I am a somatic spiritual recovery coach. And I do specialize in dance therapy and embodiment and core pelvic recovery for women as well, and trauma recovery. So, um, in terms of my work, also, these things very much intertwine. I have also been a dancer all my life, and for me, dance has been a spiritual expression. I've worked with dance different forms, such as belly dance and Latin dance, modern, a lot of different forms. But it for me, dance has always been about healing and a spiritual expression. And I have, past lived experience of mental illness from childhood trauma and abuse. So I very much got the connection between the healing power of dance and embodiment and
Mhm.
working with these tools to bring us into a healing relationship with our bodies and our stories. And it's very much my passion to support others. I focus primarily with women, but I
Mhm.
have worked in groups of men and women, but primarily with women, working with these issues around what we hold in our bodies, how we feel about our bodies, and that kind of legacy of
Mhm.
not having a say or sovereignty in our bodies, really loving ourselves. So, yeah, that's the nutshell of it. And
Yeah,
I love our parallels and the way that, our passions and our stories intertwine, even if they are different in certain ways. There's a beautiful connection.
exactly. That was exactly the thoughts that went through my mind. And that's the reason we're actually here is because there the dance and the kind of movement choreography, all that is the thing that combines kind of is the common denominator for both of us.
Yeah.
However, we come from two completely different kind of reasons and backgrounds for why that is so. For you, it has been a journey of healing, and you've discovered the power of dance as a healing thing.
Yes.
And for me, like I have to honestly say, it was never about healing. It was never. It was about Well, it's the beauty of the art of dance and the technique and the performing and um, telling a story with your body,
Yes,
your whole being, pretty much.
yes, yes,
And that still is a very much a part of my work, even though no, I'm not, well, with the people who are not dancers, who are clients of mine, they do get to experience some of, I bring some ballet ideas, some movements into their training, into their
yes.
mental training, which seems like, oh my God, why would you do like a physical move? But for me, that's a combination of both. So I bring the
So good.
movement in, but from a different perspective.
Mhm,
And for I'm so excited to hear more about like the how it has come to the point where you say it's the healing in the
mhm.
movement that is for
Yes.
you the central part. And for me, it's all about making a choreography kind of.
Mhm,
That's the movement part for me.
mhm. Well, it's interesting because there are even parallels in that because, yes, there are all these different aspects of dance movement as a healing art. There is, the expression, the element of that, the energy, how it moves through our bodies, how it impacts. There's neuroscience is really focusing in on it a lot now too.
Mhm,
There's a whole kind of scientific background. It's an ancient practice in our human legacy, but I also use it as with a background in, corrective exercise and functional fitness and body work and energy work, you know, use it in that way as a tool for that bridge to heal the body, the movement, the combination. And I've also used choreography as a even as a mental health advocate to create performance that at
mhm,
mental health conferences depicting my story, but also just depicting the healing process, so people can kind of relate to that and find where they can express themselves in that.
mhm,
Um, but I think that so there are like definitely parallels in that using form, using choreography.
mhm,
We can use it in so many ways, but it's kind of looking at what is the intention? How are we approaching
mhm,
this form or what we're doing with it? And then we have just the fact that life is a dance in itself
mhm,
and all the different factors we're putting together, and I think we recognized it in that way too as helpers and healers, supporters, coaches, and also as artists.
mhm. Exactly. It's an expression of yourself. I mean,
Yes.
movement in itself for all of us humans, whether it's a dance, a choreographed, or some kind of movement in that way, or any kind of movement, we express ourselves, right?
Yes. Yes.
And even people who are not able to move their whole body are moving the parts that they
Mhm.
can to express because it is so important, so central to us. And I think that's like the kind of the thing that also for me is the choreography. It's like you choreograph your life
Exactly.
because you are in
Exactly.
charge of all the decisions that you make and you're responsible for how you appear in this world. And
Yes.
that's kind of the thing. Like if you're a choreographer, that's what you do. You decide, okay, what's the music, what are the lights, the costumes, what are the movements that we do? Is it a group? Is it one person, two people? You know, uh, how fast, how slow, whatever. All those elements are
Yes.
the same.
Yeah. The ingredients.
Hmm.
The ingredients in the stew.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of it. And also if a person, and I'm not saying everybody's ready. So a lot of people are not ready to embrace that and be like, oh yeah, I am the choreographer of my life.
Right.
It's a
That
big responsibility.
awareness. Yeah, it is. It is a big responsibility, and it is I think we come to that awareness in layers because it can be way over it can be really, scary or overwhelming or intimidating if we're not kind of in that process of learning step by step and kind of coming into that awareness, learning the tools and all of that as we go, because it's not really what we're taught
Mhm,
growing up. We're kind of, giving our power away and all of that. But but I feel like we can, and I know we do that. We meet people where they're at as well to kind of build that awareness because the truth is, whether we're taking responsibility or not, we're still being impacted by our own decisions and our beliefs and you know, our stories, how what we were taught, for example, growing
Mm,
up, or what we were taught in society about ourselves, and then how we live our lives based on whether it's conscious or unconscious. So either way, we're being impacted by it. So to recognize that we're the center point. And I, come from that spiritual perspective. Not I'm not coming from a religious perspective, but I respect religions, but that spiritual perspective, recognizing that we're co-creating, with source, with our higher power, with, whatever that force is that we believe in,
mhm,
that, I mean, the way I look at it, it's a loving, unconditionally loving, presence and source and intelligence. And so we we can become aware of that. We can consciously co-create and recognize,
mhm. It's kind of taking that
yeah,
power and embracing it, and
yeah.
however, also taking the responsibility and accepting, like, yes, I have the ownership of all this, and I do have the
Yes.
responsibility. I can't blame anybody, not
Right.
even myself. Not blaming is not good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Learning, right? Learning or that's a really big one. I feel like that's a and I there's that connection in with mental health around that
Mhm,
when we're not going into those places of bashing ourselves or beating ourselves up,
mhm,
blame, shame, guilt, all of those things that we can get into in our thoughts, in our the way we treat ourselves, and that can be so damaging. That's so damaging. When there's mental health stuff going on, those are not loving thoughts that we're having.
no, and that's exactly what I went through. Like, that's exactly what happened was this whole growing up dancing and, always looking at myself in the mirror and then comparing with others and always looking for the things that are wrong, that are, a mistake, a fault. It should be better, it should be otherwise, even like to the point of like, not being, well, body image is huge. So ever never being satisfied with what I look like or anything. And that's very, very damaging. And it did for me come to the point where I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I was very depressed for 7 years. That's a long time. And a
Mhm,
lot of stuff, I'm still here. That's good,
mhm.
to
Yeah,
talk about it. And
yeah,
that's also the fire why I do what I do. It's because
yeah.
I know how damaging that whole can be if you don't have tools. If
Yes.
you're left to your own self and you don't have tools and you don't have, nobody gives you the idea that there are other ways to look at things, that there
Mhm.
are other perspectives, that your own thoughts are not the truth.
Yes.
That all those things, if someone is there to tell you that and say, look, this is how you can kind of create that distance, or this is how you can maybe get another perspective or have another attitude or create a different character, this is how you do it, then if you have these tools, you don't even go there. You don't have a chance to let something like depression or anxiety or some other mental health issue enter your life. It won't have a chance. And that's why that's the reason, because I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. It's not necessary and it is so preventable with little
Yeah.
things. If you take it, and then the hardest part for people that I worked with or people I talk with is if things are okay, people are like, well, I don't need it because, this stuff doesn't touch me.
Mhm.
And then comes the point where, yes, it does. And then it's kind of like, well, it's not too late, but at some point it's too late if you go too far. It so the building up of that mental strength and that stamina inside of you, the resilience and then the ability to turn things around is being built all throughout everything. Good,
Mhm.
bad, whatever it is, the shitty days and then good days and the ones in between. It's a
Yeah.
consistency.
Yeah.
and that's the trick. It might not be a lot of stuff, might not be big things at all, it's little things that you just keep consistently going, keeping it up, and never stopping. Good day, bad day, no matter what, neutral day, you keep doing that stuff, and that's the hardest part, is
Yeah.
that when things are good,
Keep going.
people feel like, "Oh, I don't need that. I'm fine." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and well, it also can come in time, over time with life, living life. These things can sometimes be suppressed as well, and they start to come out in experiences of life, or situations that will trigger them. And it is really important to have these tools, cultivate them. When you're speaking about your experience, those impacts of body image and outside performance standards and all of those things, that's kind of when there's not a foundation of you are enough, you are sacred and precious already, and your body is sacred, and all of that foundation isn't there, and it's just kind of a whittling away. You're not enough,
Mhm,
and excuse me, and that of course is where abusive messages and where my that impact was in, younger years, abuse and emotional, sexual, physical, these kinds of things, and things that also get passed down in the family. Those are lodged in the body, and those impact kind of our emotional makeup,
mhm,
something that lodges in us in our hearts, and to be able to start to kind of get into the foundation where that taught us how to see ourselves and not see ourselves. And there are very much parallels with kind of the whole thing around, again, the body, because we're human beings. So of course our bodies are going to be a part of that
mhm,
impact. We're going to hold things. We're not just kind of these disembodied things. We're human beings in bodies. And so, that was a big part of my story, was how all these different health issues, this emotional pain lodged in the body, and it very much affects how we see ourselves. So I do a lot of bridging as well around, what people are holding in their bodies, what they're holding in their stories, and how they're seeing themselves. And yeah, for me, it's like it got to places. It was kind of moments of breakdown and then coming back up again, building back up, building, after these mental health breakdowns, because the stuff would come up to the surface and be overwhelming, and then there was sabotage, and I think a lot of people can relate to those cycles, and so it's about getting into the roots, down into where is this coming from? Where is this living in me? And where maybe it's been passed down in my family. Maybe it's something that's just passed down in our society for many. Come on, we know as women, the whole thing around our bodies,
mhm,
is a huge piece, and then what we pass on to the girls. So it was a lot of getting in there, and yes, having those tools and having those different layers of awareness,
mhm,
because I've been working in holistic healing for about 30 years or so. So I was young when I started, and I still had so much to heal, but I kept learning and studying and growing and doing the healing work and working with people, and having to keep kind of going through this process. And that it's a really big one to remind people, don't give up. Do
mhm,
not give up, and remember that it's about you are a powerful being. That's the truth of who you are, and it is about love. And love, that self-love, that care is gonna part of that is having those boundaries with the way we think, with the way we treat ourselves, with
mhm,
the way we relate, and what we allow
mhm.
how we allow others to treat us as well.
Exactly, and it starts with us, like everything else. It starts from within, to
Yes.
have this built within, and that is the hardest part, because we are
Yeah.
so, again, I mean, I know from personal experience, so critical about ourselves, like so much harder and harsher than we would ever dare to be with someone else. And that is kind of sad. And I mean, I know that for myself, and even to this day, I'm not so kind to myself all the time. I have to admit, I'm not perfect, and I'm not.
It's a lifelong process.
Yeah,
It's
and
I
also
don't think there is perfect, there's not perfect. There's just
no.
learning and growing, you know?
But when you grow up, in dance, for example, or a lot of other sports, is you strive for the perfection because you think that it's there. And even though maybe you have achieved, you do move or you do a whole dance, a whole choreography, and it went really well, and like really
Yeah,
on point, you were like you nailed it everything, and still you have things to improve. So you never are. There is no perfection, yet you always strive for it. So you're always kind of feeling like it's not enough, just inherently, because the constellation is like that. But then
yeah,
it's even more so important to find this enoughness within. Be like, yes, even though I strive for it to become better and do, higher performance every single time,
right, right.
still enough.
Celebrating the milestones is a huge, huge piece. To
Mhm,
keep celebrating the milestones because otherwise you're just kind of continually pushing, and that can really gets
mhm.
that can lead us to be so depleted and keep seeking outside validation in terms of building that sense of self-worth that we're not giving to ourselves by celebrating ourselves
Mhm.
and celebrating those moments and knowing we want to keep growing, but take a moment, take a breather and celebrate. We need that joy, you know?
Exactly. And gratitude, I believe, is like the superpower that just over governs all the good things. And yeah, that is the thing, the first thing in I did created this app for confidence for young dancers. And first thing there is the superpower is is gratitude. And the second one is forgiveness.
Mhm.
So those
Huge.
two, like,
Yeah.
huge things. So I think we're coming to an
Foundation.
end already of this
I know
conversation.
it just went so like this, yeah.
Oh, we will do more.
Yeah, that'd be
We will.
great.
This will be a series of choreographies, I would
Yes,
think.
and maybe we will dance at some point as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, or have everybody else join us.
Exactly. Yeah, so I would like to thank you, Morgan, for joining this and sharing and being just a wonderful human being, you know, with all my heart. I'm grateful to you. And I'm grateful for every single person who has been here with us. There was at some point like 54 people this live for a little while. Wow, I don't think I've ever had that number. And
I
now
know,
there's
right?
more people as I can see. I'm not sure if I can see everything, but thank you so
Can't
much for
see.
anyone and everyone who has been here today in the live, and anyone, everyone who is watching the replay. And please leave your comments, questions, feedback, whatever it is, in the comments, and we will see that. You can do it anytime, and we will still see that, and we will respond to you. And reach out if there are any questions. If there's something that you'd like to share, and you can always DM both of us, either one of us. And yeah, we'll be back sooner rather than later.
Excellent. I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Paula. I'm so glad to know you.